What was the last that we had finished?
Last chapter is also. Last chapter is not done. Mom, I think it's also.
You were there the last class?
He was not there.
He was not there. Intercalary meristems. Where are you? You are already always lost. You are always lost. Intercalary meristems. I have finished teaching you permanent parenchyma, parenchyma, sclerenchyma. Yes or no? Did I teach you that? Then why are you saying intercalary meristems? Meristematic tissues are done. Permanent tissues are done. Permanent tissues. For parenchyma, you first be aware what is happening in the class, then you talk. First be aware what is happening in the class. Now, none of you are aware what is exactly happening in the class. Not even, I think only this boy will be able to tell me correctly. Other than that, you all are just coming down, sitting. I don't know how much you are understanding, what you are listening, what you are writing. Most of you. So, when we are talking about the type of tissues that we have studied, what are the type of tissues? We had already discussed about meristematic tissues. We discussed meristematic tissues the other day. What are meristematic tissues and their types? We had talked about 3 types: apical meristems, then apical meristems, and then lateral meristems, and then intercalary meristems. And already before that, we were talking about permanent. What are the types of permanent tissues? Parenchyma, parenchyma, sclerenchyma. These were the simple permanent. Apart from that, we also talked about complex permanent, xylem and phloem. The types of cells and their function. This is what we discussed. Apart from that, special type of tissues like the epidermis I discussed. Epidermis and stomata. Yes or no? Yes, no. Epidermis, stomata. So we are already done with plant tissues. So all of it I have discussed. All the concept of plant tissues are over. Today we are going to start with animal tissues. Today we are going to talk about animal tissues. What is done in the class? Take a note of all the lecture points, all of you.
Well, actually, my last page was the next page.
How can it be? You are writing one page in one book, another page in another book. How is it?
It is in this book only, but I didn't solve the page.
Take down all the lecture points. Right after, during the test, don't suddenly get up, wake up one fine morning and say that this is not done in the class. You take your breaks, you remain absent at your own choice. And then when the test will happen, suddenly you wake up, no, this is not done in the class. Plant tissues, all of it is done. Plant tissues, epidermis, as well as stomata. Both we have finished. Simple permanent, complex permanent, all we have finished. Today we are going to talk about the animal tissues. What are the types of animal tissues we are going to study? 4 types of animal tissues. One would be epithelial tissues. Second would be connective tissues. Connective tissues. Third would be muscular tissues, and fourth would be nervous tissues. So these are the 4 types of tissues that we are going to study. The first that we are going to talk about would be nervous tissues. The first that we are going to talk about would be nervous tissues. We start with this last type of tissues because there are some diagrams. Let us complete those topics which has got diagrams so that you can start practicing. Nervous tissues. What are nervous tissues? Nervous tissues are formed of nerves. What is it made up of? They are formed of nerves. What are nerves? How will we define nerves? Nerves are bundle of nerve cells. Nerves are bundles of nerve cells or neurons. Nerve cells or neurons. Now let us learn what is the basic structure of a neuron and the parts and their functions. You'll have to draw this diagram. Take out your pencils. Who is asking this?
I'm going to draw this diagram before the results are decided.
What is it?
After this, we have to draw the diagram down or right side.
You draw down, right, center, left. It is your choice. No?
What is the second one? Inactive.
Write down the 4 types of tissues, and I told you nervous. You behave like a 9th standard. You are asking questions like the 6th standard students. What is there to ask here? The 4 types of tissues. What did I tell you? I'm going to start with nervous tissues first because the types of tissues where diagrams are there, I'm going to take up first. So अभी nervous tissues का heading लिखो, diagram draw करो.
Ma'am, from nerves के नीचे का
Inactive, right?
Connective, muscular, nervous. Okay, 4
nerves
types.
के नीचे का
Bundles of nerve cells or neurons. Bundles of nerve cells or neurons. Ninth standard students, be very, very mature, grow up. Some of you are behaving so kiddish. Draw this diagram. You will not use pen while drawing your diagram. Pencil for drawing as well as labeling. No pen at all. And start doing your work fast. Don't be slow and keep doing the diagram very slowly. It's a simple diagram. You should not take 5 minutes, more than 5 minutes to draw. We are talking about nervous tissues. What are nervous tissues? Where are nervous tissues present? First of all, try understanding where are nervous tissues present? All over the body. How do we know all over the body? Because nervous tissues are always involved with sensation and coordination. So if I'm saying that what would be the job of the nervous tissues? The job of nervous tissues would be allowing us to hear, talk, allowing us to move, allowing us to see, taste, smell. So all these are the job of the nervous tissues. So nervous tissues present all over the body. What is it made up of? It is made up of nerves. Rather, what is nerves made up of? Nerves are made up of nerve cells. What are nerve cells also known as? Nerve cells are also known as neurons. What is the definition of neurons? Let us learn first. What is the definition of the word neuron? Neurons are nerve cells, remember. What is the definition of a neuron that you should always write down? Neurons are the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. structural and functional unit of nervous system. So now that I talk about the neurons, neurons are always the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. We try to understand what are some of the important parts of neurons. Some of the important parts are, the first that we talk about are dendrites. We'll have to learn some special features of each of these dendrites. Then we talk about a specialized region known as the myelin sheath. A specialized region known as the myelin sheath, and then we talk about the axon, and then we talk about the axon. And apart from that, we talk about the cyton, the main cell body of a neuron. We talk about the cyton or the main cell body of the neuron. So now, when we are talking about the major characteristics, let us now talk about the main parts of a neuron. Look into the diagram. Main parts of the neuron. What are the main parts of the neuron? As you draw, take a note. What are the main parts of the neuron? The main parts of the neuron are the dendrites, the axon, and the cyton. So that's the three most important parts: dendrite, cyton, axon. I'll give you 2 minutes to finish the diagram first.
Three main parts of the neuron.
What is it?
Now, sir.
Three main parts are the dendrite, cyton, and the axon that I've underlined in red. We'll have to learn the functions. Finish the diagram fast. Now, look into this parts of the neuron. So, I talk about the three most important parts. Dendrites. Let us start with dendrites. What are some of the characteristics, features about the dendrites we should know? Dendrites are small branched processes. The dendrites are small branched processes. As from the diagram, you can see that the dendrites are small, the dendrites are branched, small thread-like structure. That's why they are called small branched processes. What do they do? What are they doing? Their function is receiving information, and this is what is known as stimulus. What can be some examples of stimulus? Stimulus examples can be touch, can be temperature, can be, we talk about the light, can be, we talk about sound. These are all examples of stimulus. What is the job of the dendrites? The job of the dendrites is to receive stimulus. What does the dendrites do? Receive information from the external environment. Receive information from the external environment. And what are the forms of the external information? How can the external information be for a neuron which is present on our eyes, on our ears, on our skin? On different parts of the body, we talk about the neurons are spread out all over the body. There are neurons on our tongue, on our ears, on our nose, on our eyes, on the skin. And that's the reason we are able to constantly coordinate with the external environment. So what is stimulus? Stimulus means any type of an information. What is stimulus? Remember this word. Stimulus always means various different type of information, external information that the neurons are receiving. And this information can be in the form of what? In the form of sound, in the form of light, in the form of touch, in the form of prick. Somebody is pricking you. Can that be stimulus? Is that a stimulus? Why? Because yes, in response to that prick, you show some action. Right? In this room, what are some of the stimulus you can give examples of? Right in this room, can you give me examples of a stimulus right now? The temperature, whether you are feeling that cold, now that I put on the fan at a higher speed or AC at a higher, there will be a sensation of coldness. Sound. Now that I'm constantly talking, you're able to hear something and respond accordingly. Sound. What is?
And then what's the difference between stimulus and reflex actions?
Reflex is according to the stimulus how you are reacting. But
It's the reaction.
Reaction. So, but reflex action is a bit different when we are talking about now that I'm speaking and you are writing in a programmed way, your brain is involved here. But suddenly a lizard falls on your head. What's happening? There is no programming. You will jump and scream and shout. At that time, your brain is not involved. So that falling of the lizard is also a stimulus. But the response that you show then, brain is not involved, only spinal cord. That is a reflex. So now when we are talking about the stimulus, remember some examples of stimulus. The light can be stimulus. Now that I talk about the light, how can the light be a stimulus? Because it is the light which is being received by the neurons of the eyes, and that is how you are able to write. So now that we talk about, I put on the light, will you be able to write? I make the room dark, it will be difficult for you to write. Then what do we understand? Yes, light also can be a stimulus, sound also can be a stimulus, etc. Then whatever the message the dendrites receive, in any different form, the message will be received into the cell, cyton, into the cell or the cyton. And the cyton starts releasing certain enzymes. And these enzymes help in conduction of the message all throughout the length of the axon. So whatever information the cyton has, the dendrites have received, this message will be carried all over the length of the axon. This message carrying by the axon is known as impulse. The cyton or the dendrites, they are carrying or receiving the sound waves. Axon is carrying the message, but not in the form of sound waves, but in a different way. So that's the reason I'm not saying that the axon is carrying impulse. I'm saying axon is carrying, I'm not saying that the axon is carrying stimulus, but I'm saying that the axon is carrying the impulse, right? Then what is the meaning of the impulse? Whatever message has come in is getting transported, but in a different way. So what should we write? What are some of the characteristics of axon? Axon is in the form of a long unbranched process. It is in the form of a long unbranched process. It is in the form of a long unbranched process. What is its function? It helps in the transfer or conduction of the message. What can we also talk about the message as? We would say that the message is termed as impulse. Conduction of impulse, that is what we would say. Conduction of the impulse. What is impulse? The information. What is impulse? It is the information which is getting carried all over the length of the axon. Impulse always means the information that we are talking about, which is getting carried. And now that the message reaches here, this message will be released out in the form of chemicals and then go to the next neuron. This is how coordination happens in our body. We are going to talk about this.
What is the
Long unbranched process. Long unbranched process. Conduction of the impulse is its function. What is this myelin sheath that I'm talking about? What is this myelin sheath? It is nothing but a fatty tissue. Myelin sheath is nothing but a fatty tissue. This myelin sheath that I'm talking about, which is a fatty tissue, this myelin sheath is very much capable of or it is just like a protective layer surrounding the exon so that it does not allow the message to be lost. Just imagine, I first of all talk about what is the function. Prevents the loss of impulse. Prevents the loss of impulse. Prevents the loss of impulse. What is it? Prevents the loss of impulse. What is the meaning of this? Prevents the loss of impulse. Now that the message has been received, now that the information by understanding, now that the information that has been received by the dendrites, this message should pass down till here without any loss. Then your coordination and your response is much faster and more efficient. Say suppose, I believe that if we don't have these myelin sheaths or if it is all broken this way, what may happen if this myelin sheath is all broken or it is absolutely absent? It is also possible that these messages are constantly getting lost. So if the messages are lost this way, obviously is the message reaching at the terminals in 100%? Is it reaching in 100%? No, it is not reaching in 100%. And how do we understand? How will we understand? We will understand our behavior in that case will be same like a elderly person. We all have experienced how our grandmother, grandfather, or great grandmother, grandfather would behave. No, do we behave exactly, or would a child or would a middle-aged individual and the 80-90-year-old individual behave exactly the same? No. If I talk about my grandmother, almost about 90 years old, what would happen? When we talk, say something, the response is a little bit slower. Is that happening for a 12-year? Is that happening for a 20-year? Is that happening for a 30-year? And is that happening for a 40, 50? No, it will be comparatively faster. Why? If the myelin sheath is intact, the transfer of the message is fast and without any loss. Yes, with age, it gets thinner. And in case I talk about a snail, talk about these lower groups of animals, is the response very fast? No, the response is comparatively slower as compared to slower. Why? Because they don't have this myelin sheath. So now they receive the message and the message gets carried only somehow by 60% because so much of the loss has happened. So the response is also slower and the response is also not very efficient. So this is the job of the myelin sheath. To remember, the myelin sheath always acts as an insulator. Now see, we talk about those electric wires. Did you ever notice that the copper wires have got those rubber tubes? Colorful rubber tubes are there, no? Sometimes yellow, sometimes red. And then over those rubber tubes, again, these plastic casings are necessary. Why do we give this plastic casings? So that you put it on, immediately it glows. If you don't put this plastic casing and those rubber tubes are also not there, will this run? Yes, it will run. But the moment you put on, there will be so much of charge loss. So the tube and the bulb will glow much light in a low intensity. The light will not be that bright. Now today we have got the copper wires, then the rubber casing, then the plastic casing. So the charges are not lost at all. You put it and the glow is so big enough. The intensity is so high. So these are the parts, structures of the neurons that you have to remember. Next we are going to talk about muscular tissues. Where are muscles present? Where are muscles present in our body? Where? Inside or below the skin, okay? And everywhere in the body, exactly. Not exactly. Nerves, you can say exactly everywhere. Muscles, not exactly everywhere. There are limitations, of course. Can you talk about one or two organs in our body where muscles are there?
Forearms.
Okay. Legs.
Shoulders.
Lats. And can you talk about some internal parts of our body where muscles are there?
Stomach,
Liver. And heart. Heart also. So now that we are going to learn muscles, what are muscles? Again, same that way. I talk about the muscular tissues. What are muscular tissues made up of? Muscular tissues are made up of muscle bundles. These are made up of bundles of muscles. Muscular tissues are made up of bundles of muscles. And every consisting of, now these muscular bundles are consisting of bundles of muscles consisting of myofibrils. Consisting of myofibrils. Now, what are myofibrils? Myofibrils are the muscle cells, the thinnest fiber. These are the muscle cells. Myofibrils are the muscle cells. And how do we define? These are also known as the structural and functional unit of the muscle bundle. The structural and the functional unit. The structural and the functional unit of the muscle. The structural and the functional unit of the muscle. That is how myofibrils has to be defined. But unlike the neurons, the muscles all over the body are not exactly the same. The structure differs as per their function. So we are going to learn now 3 different types of muscles and their respective location.
What is the cell?
Structural myofibrils, also known as the muscle cells. And structural and functional units, that is the definition. Structural and functional unit, they are also known as the structural and the functional unit of the muscle. Now we talk about the 3 types of the muscles. What are the 3 types? Let us start. The first type of muscle would be something like this, which are in the form of fine cylindrical cells. Myofibrils already are named. What are myofibrils? Myofibrils are specific type of muscle fibers. These are the thinnest fibers. Say suppose I pick up a small amount of muscle from the hand or the face and put it under the microscope. Am I able to see something? I'll not be able to see anything. But that muscle separate to find out the finest fiber and then put it under the microscope. Then we will be able to see something like this. Let us try understanding how would the muscle fiber look like. So one type of a muscle fiber would something look like this. One type of a muscle fiber would look like this, where the myofibrils have got this type of dark and light regions. The myofibril has this type of dark and light regions. The dark and light regions. So how are these dark and light regions? And what about some special features that they have? Generally, whenever I talk about a particular cell, the cell should be having how many nucleus? Whenever I talk about a particular cell, the cell should be having 1 nucleus. Now, these type of muscles that I'm drawing, this type of muscle cells have got more than 1 nucleus. This is one special feature of these type of muscles. What are some of the important parts? Let us label here. What are some of the important parts? The important parts, these are known as the dark bands. These are known as dark bands. What about this region? This is known as the light bands. These are known as light bands. What about this? This is known as the nucleus. This is the nucleus. So these are the main parts of the muscle. Which type of muscle I'm talking about? This is the first type of muscle that I'm talking about, is known as striated or stripped or skeletal muscles. So these are the alternative terms. Skeletal or stripped or striated muscles. Skeletal, stripped or striated muscles. Skeletal, stripped or striated muscles. So now if I talk about where are these muscles present, 3 parameters we have to study. Where are they present? Special features of the cell, and if any specialized structure to understand. So location I'm talking about, where are they present? They would be present in the hands, they are present in the legs, they are present in the face, they are present in the shoulder. And remember, can you tell me a common feature in all these that I'm talking about? The face and the hands and the legs and the neck and the shoulder. A common feature?
Structure.
Something more? In all these examples, in all these locations, what is common? Bones are there and the muscles are just surrounding the bones. So now remember, you don't have to memorize and remember and learn any examples here. Skeletal muscles, where are they present? Any particular region of the body? Where bones are there and surrounding the muscle or surrounding the bones, the muscles that we talk about are the skeletal muscles. You can give examples of the neck and the limbs and the fingers. Toes, can I write? Toes, can I write? Of course. Toes have got bones and the muscles surrounding the toes are the skeletal muscles. A special nature. What is the nature of these type of muscles? They are voluntary. What is the meaning of voluntary? The process of contraction we can control. Can we move our own toes? Yes. Can we move the muscles of the face according to our wish? Yes. Can we move? No. Make your face frowning. Make your face smiling. Huh? So the smile and the frown and the angriness and the screaming and the shouting and the yelling, of course we all can regulate. Can you regulate the muscles of your shoulder? Can you regulate the muscles of your hands and legs and fingers? Yes. So all these parts of the body where the muscle contraction, when I say regulate, mean what? You are able to move these parts of the body according to your own wish, according to your own will. So now, if these muscles we are able to regulate on our own, we are able to contract on our own, move on our own, then such type of muscles are called voluntary muscles. What are some features about the structure you are supposed to remember? Structure. What are some special features about the structure of these type of muscles? The myofibrils are cylindrical. Myofibrils are cylindrical. Are they cylindrical in shape? Are they cylindrical in shape? They are. So when I'm talking about these myofibrils, the myofibrils are cylindrical and unbranched. Now why I write unbranched, you will understand when I talk about the next. And they are multinucleate. When I say multinucleate, what do you understand? A particular cell is supposed to have one nucleus. Is this cell having only one nucleus? Many. They may be 5, 6, 8 also at one time. Multinucleated. And next is they have striations. Can you see the dark and the light bands alternately? Yes, they have striations. Let me talk about the second type. The second type of muscles would be something like this. The second type of muscles that I understand would be something like this, where the muscle fiber is something this way. Not exactly like what we had come across in striated, not exactly like what we have come across in striated, and the nucleus is only one per cell. And when we are talking about the striations, yes, cytoplasm is there, the cytoplasm is scattered. And we may say that, do they have light and dark bands? Not at all, they don't have the light and the dark bands at all. But then they have got some specialized structures known as the oblique connections, are also known as oblique striations. And they have got some plate-like structures, and these are called intercalated discs. Intercalated disc. This is called intercalated disc. What type of muscles am I talking about? I am now talking about cardiac muscles. I am now talking about cardiac muscles. I am talking about cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles are striated again because yes, they may not have the light and the dark bands, but some striations are there in the cytoplasm. Cardiac muscles or striated muscles. But remember, cardiac muscles are also one type of striated muscles, but I'm not talking about the skeletal muscles and striated. These are one type, and cardiac and striated, this is another type. Same way, I talk about the location. What about the location to write? This type of muscles are only and only in the heart, nowhere else in the body. What about the nature? Can we allow the heart to contract on our wish, on our will? No. So such type of muscles are known as involuntary. Can we regulate the beating of the heart? Can we regulate the movement of the blood from the heart? We cannot. So the process of contraction of the heart is not according to our wish or will. It will happen as per the need in the body. So now, nature is what? Involuntary. Let us talk about some structural features. Structure, if I'm talking about, the myofibrils are cylindrical. Of course, they are cylindrical and branched. They are cylindrical and branched. Myofibrils are cylindrical and branched. Myofibrils are cylindrical and branched. What next? Do they have many nucleus or only one nucleus? Only one nucleus. So we would write they are uninucleate. What is the meaning of uninucleate? Only one nucleus. Uninucleate. They are uninucleate. And then they have got striations. So they have specialized structures known as intercalated discs. They have specialized structures known as intercalated discs. What are intercalated discs? These are as if plate-like structures in the entire muscle fiber. Involuntary, remember one major difference to write between skeletal and cardiac, voluntary and involuntary. That's a major difference. And whether they are branched or non-branched, that's a major difference again to write down. What is the third difference that you can write between cardiac and skeletal? What is the third difference you can write between cardiac and skeletal? Uninucleate and multinucleate. These are multinucleate and these are uninucleate. So these are differences. We talk about the third type of muscle. How would the third type of muscles be? The third type of muscle fiber is something like this. All spindle shaped. The third type of muscle fiber is something like this, spindle shaped. And if I look into the nature of the cytoplasm is smooth without any striations, absolutely. So now, what type of muscle am I talking about? What are these type of muscles? These are known as unstriated, also known as smooth muscles. Unstriated, also known as smooth muscles. Unstriated, also known as smooth muscles. Location again to remember. What are some of the location? They are present all in the internal organs. What are some of the internal organs? Stomach. It can be the small intestine. It can be the large intestine. It can be the blood vessels. It can be the food pipe, etc. Okay, so all these examples you can write down. All these examples, location. What about the nature of these type of muscles? Can we contract the stomach on our own wish?
Yes.
Blood vessels on our own wish? Come on, increase the movement of your blood vessels. Can you? Can you allow the contraction of your food pipe, windpipe? Can you now relax your intestines? Can you relax your blood vessels? Nothing, nothing. All these internal parts of the body that we talk about will constantly contract, relax as per the need of the body. The food has to pass through the food pipe, automatically it will contract and relax. We cannot do anything. Same is the story with the blood vessels. Blood vessels, stomach, intestine. So all these different parts are made up of smooth muscles. What is its nature? Nature is involuntary. Then what did you understand by the difference between
stomach? You can control your stomach.
how?
What is it? Have
Nature.
no,
Have intercalated discs. How can you can how will you control?
Your stomach and pull your stomach out.
You are not pulling your stomach in, stomach out. You are only pulling in and out your abdominal muscles. The abdominal muscles you are pulling in and out. How you are not pulling your stomach in, stomach out at all. Now that is a general way of saying this entire thing is not your stomach. The stomach is inside. This is only the muscle, the muscular wall, the skin wall. So whenever you are talking about taking it in and relaxing, you are actually relaxing and taking it in only the muscles of the abdomen. You are not doing anything with the stomach there. And same with the intestine. Structure. What are you supposed to understand? Some few features of the structure. The myofibrils are spindle shaped. Myofibrils are spindle shaped. Myofibrils are spindle shaped, tapering they are, remember. Then they are uninucleate, all of them. Only one nucleus they will have. They are uninucleate. They are uninucleate. What else? Next is they have no striations. They have no striations and they are unbranched. No striations and they are unbranched. You have to draw all these three diagrams. You get these diagrams to draw during exams. You are asked to draw these diagrams during exams. I'll give you 2 minutes to finish up these diagrams now. All the three diagrams are necessary. Have no striations and unbranched. No striations and unbranched.
And ma'am, in the cardiac muscles,
Have intercalated discs. Have intercalated. I know. Okay. So about the three types of muscles, take one question that you will try writing now. Take one question, write down one question. Write two differences between skeletal and cardiac muscles.
Doesn't this question I wrote this idea.
Which one? No, after this. Write down the question first after that. Write two differences between skeletal and cardiac muscles. Two differences between skeletal and cardiac muscles. Put your notebook up there. Why are you writing that way? Huh? I
can improve it.
By keeping that way?
No, I can write.
By keeping that way? That's the wrong way, but that is the wrong way. You should always sit straight. Put your see how he's writing. See how he's writing.
And skeletal
Cardiac muscles. Try doing things the right way. No? Why do you develop the wrong way? Sit straight. Book on the desk.
do we need to draw it?
हाँ obviously. Difference मतलब table बनाना ही है. देखो, I'll give you 2 minutes, 5 minutes time. चलो fast. I already marked the differences. Write any of the two differences. I already marked them. Check.
Only two differences we have,
Huh?
right?
I marked already 3 of them, no? Write any 2. If 3 are asked, then also you can write 3 differences. 2 are asked, you can write 2 differences. Like that. These diagrams that I have drawn, very important, remember. These diagrams you will have to draw. Practice, you will be asked in the exam, these 3 diagrams. Sometime later, I will again ask you this type of diagrams anytime to draw in the class as a practice. So see that you keep practicing also. Simple diagrams, but see that you draw neat so that you get full marks there. Done? Wrote?
Yes, ma'am.
Clear about the differences? Take out your volume, turn to epithelial tissues. Others finish fast. Points यहाँ से खाली लिखना है. It's already there in front of you. Volume निकालो. I know there is a table on epithelial tissues. You'll have to read straight away from the table way. Done. How do you write down the differences?
I was writing that.
I was writing.
From that.
And the third one.
Okay. You have not started with the question. Fast. Finished. What are the points you have written?
This nature and structure.
What are the points you have written?
Nature is voluntary.
For?
Skeletal muscle. For cardiac muscle, nature is involuntary.
Second difference, what you wrote?
Structure. For skeletal muscle, myofibrils are cylindrical and unbranched. And for cardiac muscle, cylindrical runs.
Very good. Done. लिखो पास
And
पास.
second, multinucleate and uninucleate.
दो डिफरेंस पूछा था, तीन डिफरेंस क्यों लिखा? नहीं मिलेगा.
Yes, in case.
बर्थडे चॉकलेट है क्या? जो आए तो एक से बचा तो ले लो.
कट नहीं होता.
कट नहीं होगा, but you are unnecessarily wasting your time writing those points. हमारे दिल में कोई दया नहीं आएगी कि तुमको एक्स्ट्रा मार्क्स हम दे दे. देंगे कहाँ से? कि क्वेश्चन पेपर में उतना 2 ही मार्क का क्वेश्चन है. देंगे कहाँ से मार्क?
मैम 1-2 मार्क्स का ही आएगा.
This difference is you will get basically for 2 to 3 marks also.
हम फिर 2.2 ना बोलने बोलेंगे अगर 3 मार्क्स का है.
3 मार्क है तो 3 points. That's why I told you 3 differences. 3 marks. 3 marks, 3 differences. 2 marks, 2 differences लिखना है. So it is mentioned also in the paper. Write 2 differences. Write 3 differences. So accordingly you will have to write down. Now epithelial tissues. What are some of the properties of epithelial tissues? First of all, let us learn what are epithelial tissues. Where are they present? Now, if I say epithelial tissues, you also understand that this is nothing but a group of cells again. No? What is the definition of tissues?
Cells forming an
What is the definition of tissues? अभी देखो पीछे जाओ, पढ़ाई किया नहीं कुछ. What is the definition of tissues? Group of cells similar or dissimilar in structure and performing a common function. Okay. So now, when we are talking about epithelial tissues, now we are going to come across. Again, we are talking about a group of cells. What are some special features of the cells? Here for muscular tissues, we saw there are some specialized features. The cells are compactly arranged. The cells are compactly arranged. The cells are compactly arranged and they don't have intercellular spaces. They don't have intercellular spaces. Cells are small. Cells are small. They can be cube-shaped or pillar-like. Cube-shaped or pillar-like cells. Next is they form covering of an organ or an organism. We will come across what does this mean. And next is their functions. What are some common functions that you will come across all over the types? 3 या 4 तरह के उनके functions होते हैं. What are some of the common functions? या तो protection होगा, या तो secretion होगा, or absorption. Okay. So if I talk about the epithelial tissues के यही common 3 से 4 तरह के functions होते हैं. What I talked about, epithelial tissues in whichever part of the body I talk about, these are cells of various shapes. We'll learn the next day. तो कहाँ पे होता है epithelial tissues? Where are they found? Covering of an organ or an organism. Covering of organ या तो organism. I will talk about the covering of the stomach, epithelial tissues. I will talk about covering of the lungs, epithelial tissues, covering of the heart.
And the
Cuboid. So covering of all these internal organs that we have are all epithelial tissues, and the covering of our own body. What is the covering of our own body known as? Skin, made up of epithelial tissues. So it is either the covering of an organ or the entire organism, और यही 3 या 4 तरह के उनके functions होते हैं. The types we'll take up the next class. Okay.
एक मिनट सब 3 मिनट करवा अबे अलग कैसे